Like many of you, The Strangers scared me. It scared me on a primal level, and there really haven't been too many modern films that have been able to do that to me. Since then, I've paid close attention to filmmaker Brian Bertino to see if he was able to repeat that magic. And while The Monster and Mockingbird were decent, they just didn't live up to the greatness that The Strangers achieved. Bertino recently released his latest film, The Dark and the Wicked. Will this one live up to the hype and match the sheer terror that came from The Strangers? Let's see. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights, a part of the Kings of Horror Network. I'm ML Miller. While you might be watching this video on the Kings of Horror Network, I urge you to click over to my ML Miller Frights page and give it a like, share with your buddies across the electronic superhighway, click subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. Please get the word out to new folks so we can make the Kings of Horror Network, as well as ML Miller Frights, bigger and better. Be on the lookout for a new Kickstarter campaign for an anthology I participated in called Nightmare Theater. This is a collection of short horror stories made by a whole gaggle of talented souls. The project is being helmed by David Schrader and Clay Adams. I paired up with my pirouette artist extraordinaire, Carlos Granda, for a morbidly fun morality tale to filmgoers who dare break the rules of common courtesy in the wrong theater. If you're interested in fun, scary, and gory horror, please support the Nightmare Theater Kickstarter campaign. Look below for the link. The Dark and the Wicked is new on-demand and digital download from RLJE Films and Shudder. It's directed by Brian Bertino and written by Brian Bertino as well. While it sounds like a horror western, The Dark and the Wicked tells the modern-day tragedy of Louise, Marin Ireland, and Michael Abbott Jr., who return to their childhood farmhouse to help their mother, Julie Oliver Touchstone, care for their ailing father, Michael Zaxt. It appears that father is seeing his last days, and the two siblings return to mainly be there to console their mother and help out with whatever the large sheep farm needs. But beyond arriving at the home, it is apparent that a dark pall has fallen over the house. Their mother is depressed and barely speaks, only doting to their father's every need with the help of their superstitious nurse, played by Lynn Andrews. Mother tells the two that they shouldn't have come and warns them of dark things afoot in the home. When a sudden death occurs, Louise and Michael are both hit with the grief of losing a parent, but also a dark and wicked force that is looking to devour the souls of the entire family. The Dark and the Wicked is going to hit viewers who have lost a loved one to a long-term illness hard. The death of a loved one is a devastating thing. Even though one might be sick for a long time, the shock of having them gone is never easy. The reality of the fatality of the disease hangs in the air, and even though you might occasionally catch glimpses of it, you're always surprised when it actually comes. That's the narrative of The Dark and the Wicked in a nutshell. It's a metaphorical deep dive into grief and loss as the two main characters, Louise and Michael, return home to their father who is on his deathbed. They share guilt for leaving home and staying away for so long. They share resentment toward one another for not being the one to stay and take care of the situation. And they share pity for their mother, who had stayed by their father's side and watched him deteriorate. Even before the first paranormal event occurs in Dark and the Wicked, this film drives these intense, powerful emotions home through the beleaguered faces and heavy tones of the first few minutes we spend with this family. This is where the metaphor of guilt, remorse, and grief rises as a dark specter that haunts the family home. The mother is obviously suffering from depression. She's zombie-like and lifeless when she talks with her son and daughter. This is a woman who is broken by the burden that she has been carrying for so long, and not wanting to see that life taken from her adult children. She wants them to leave and warns them of the grave circumstances of staying. When they don't leave, tragedy strikes, and the film handles this horror in an equally heavy tone. While the film hints at supernatural forces occurring from the beginning, it's not until an unexpected death occurs that Louise and Michael really start understanding that their mother wasn't just speaking in purple prose when she said evil was in the house. Bertino uses tons of camera trickery and moody set design to fill the house with dark corners and dimly lit corridors. Not so subtly hinted at in the title, this is an extremely dark film where the shadows are untrustworthy and everywhere. This makes you on edge for pretty much the entire runtime, as every frame has the potential for some deep shadow to burst out and destroy you. The devil Louise and Michael's mother writes about in her journal does seem to be real. The film is very unspecific in naming exactly what kind of evil is haunting the farmhouse. Is it a skinwalker? There are definitely signs of this, as the evil seems to take different form, and with the setting being South Texas, it definitely is the right locale for it. It also could just be evil spirits, ghosts, or demons, but none are specifically named. We never know the origins of this evil, or what the family did to unleash its curse upon itself. Here we only see through the eyes of Louise and Michael, who know next to nothing about their estranged parents, as they have been absent from their lives for so long. It is apparent that they weren't the most loving family, but still these children are good enough to return home during their time of need. This burden of being at home, away from their real lives, is highlighted as Michael desperately wants to leave and go home to his family. Louise is less lucky and seems to have lived a harder life on her own. With less options, she seems adamant to stay and be the doting child and see this tragedy through to the end. By mixing real-life feelings with otherworldly evils, Bertino delivers a mix of considerable emotional heft and true supernatural dread like few others have done in horror. Though the dread level is overflowing, Bertino takes his time to build suspense and tension in some extremely scary scenes, yet never wallows in the dread like other popular elevated horror films like Midsommar, Hereditary, The Lighthouse, and The Lodge. Bertino utilizes the heavy emotional themes to help us sympathize and get to know our two leads, but never lingers so long as to bore the audience. While I wouldn't call this film full of jump scares, because that suggests that these scares are hollow and lack anything in their delivery, The Dark and the Wicked is full of horrors from beginning to end. There are moments that startle, but then you're secondarily terrified once the thing that jumped out of the dark is identified. These scares deliver, more so than in many films you're bound to see this year. The cast is not overpowering. Here the darkness is the film's star. It was smart to populate this film with relatively unknown actors like Marin Ireland and Michael Abbott Jr., who deliver their lines remarkably well and with much skill, but you're never distracted in thinking that this actor is from another film you may have seen. Ireland is especially good here as Louise, a person life has not been kind to, but she manages to find enough will to still care. Abbott works well off of Ireland, as he represents the opposite of her situation, acknowledging that they no longer know these people, and therefore have no responsibility for them. These are not bad people for thinking thoughts like this. They're real people reacting in a very real way to an emotionally harrowing situation, and also a supernaturally evil one. One of the smaller players in this tragedy is the always strong acting of Xander Berkeley. While I would have preferred to see an unknown in the role that in many ways is reminiscent of Julian Beck's Kane from Poltergeist 2: The Other Side, he plays a priest that prophesies evil to any who stay in the house, and is often shown in silhouette to make him seem even more ominous. I also have to give it to the actress who plays the unnamed mother, Julie Oliver Touchstone, who has a frail singing voice that is the stuff of night terrors. You're not going to come out of The Dark and the Wicked skipping and whistling show tunes. This is a joyless film, and I don't think I saw the cast crack a smile once. Though it's permeated with dread from beginning to end, Bertino's The Dark and the Wicked didn't feel extraneous or overwrought. It's a thorough and effective descent into the darkest feelings one can have as an adult. It's patient, but potent in the delivery of the scares it makes you wait for. While it doesn't match the sheer primal terror that was The Strangers, The Dark and the Wicked delivers a more mature and deeply piercing story of saying goodbye to those you loved and trying desperately not to be pulled down into the abyss with them. That'll be it for today. Please chime in the comments and let me know what you think of this video, how on the nose or mind-numbingly wrong I am, or you can counter with your own review. If you like this video, please pound that thumbs up button. Share this video with your social media addicted pals. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on mlmillerwrites.com. Don't forget, I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks you should look for. Grave Trancers is out right now, and Pirouette, collecting never-before-published issues, will be out in November 18th in only the finest of comic book stores. And be sure to subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for alerts to be the first to see my future videos. Thank you so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to lead. Live inside that reality. Oh, my baby, you're doomed.